Hello Ratbags, it's Jade, welcome to the Access Show. These are all designed to give you the info you need about up and coming survival games, new updates for your favourite survival games, and generally what's going on in the world of survival. Memories of Mars is something that's been around on Steam now for just about over a year, and it's definitely gone through a bit of a rocky phase. Never really a huge, massive hit when it launched on Steam. It faced stiff competition from the big heavyweight PvP games, and unfortunately launched at pretty much the same time that so many of them were starting to gear back up, including games like DayZ, Rust becoming even better than it was, and the continued success of games like Ark. Memories of Mars is a PvP, PvE led survival game. You will be on Mars, there you go, obviously, fighting against other players and trying to destroy mechs, robots, and getting yourself enough resources to basically conquer the planet. While it maybe didn't hit the strides it needed to on PC, it looks like a lot of focus has always been on bringing it to console, and with the publisher behind it pretty big, I think that was probably the wise choice. It's often coined Rust in space. I think I was the first one to say that. I've played it a various amount of times since it's coming out into early access on PC. And what I always found was there were some good ideas here, but there just wasn't enough to keep players engaged, and it wasn't enough to keep people from competition hopping over. But I do believe on Xbox and PlayStation, this could be a bit of a breakout hit. Now, I've said this before, and I wasn't too impressed with it ended up how it turned out, but Citadel Forged with Fire was another game that really didn't strike a chord on PC, and eventually came out on Xbox and PlayStation, and it was okay. It was okay. It wasn't the worst game. It was decent for a couple weeks, but then it swiftly died because it just lacked so much content. And while they've tried updating the game, or they've got plans to up the game further after release, the update they first released wasn't particularly juicy in my opinion, and hasn't been enough to make me return to the game. I don't think a lot of other people either. However, I do see there is a big gap in the market for these type of games. I've been saying it for years. Survival is still obviously alive and breathing, and Xbox and PlayStation still don't have the big choice. It's got better when you think about games like 7 Days to Die, even some of these games with their issues, DayZ, Subnautica, Astroneer, obviously Ark, Conan, and of course Rust is coming very soon. But still, there's definitely not enough PvP led games, so I think Memories of Mars could be a real big deal on console if it gets the right type of marketing and if their update plans go ahead. So I've waffled on a lot there, but obviously you've seen from the title and the thumbnail, it is coming out, and it's coming out a lot quicker than I thought. I didn't think it was going to happen for a good few months, but Memories of Mars is coming out on Xbox and PlayStation on March the 12th. Effectively, that's only 2 weeks away. Obviously, there's going to be some big changes that add in a bunch of new stuff to it, as well as basically loot drops. And the whole premise of the game is that you run around the Mars, exploring these abandoned scientific facilities and cities, trying to get flops, which is basically the currency that allows you to buy and upgrade your weapons and armors. There's variations in some of the bots, but that's been a big problem. There hasn't been enough variation in the enemy types, and the map itself has been just a little bit one note. They've got these giant mechs that you will be fighting off, and that's kind of like the end game challenge, and you can unlock all sorts of different weapons. Now originally it was completely PvP, everywhere was PvP, but they have toned that back and have tried experimenting quite a lot during early access. Particularly recently, they have just made the game so that zones are now PvP. And while I kind of think this is a good idea, I really hope there's enough content to keep people engaged so that they don't become ghost towns and people never really venture into them. Of course, the circles or the zones that have the PvP are going to have resources that you're going to need or require, and I really hope the developers make it almost a necessity that you have to go into these circles to progress. People want PvP, and I think Memories of Mars would be best serviced as a full PvP game. Maybe not in terms of offline raiding, but certainly having open contact everywhere I think would be a better option. But anyway, we'll see how it pans out. They may be able to adjust stuff. They have experimented with different types of servers in the past, and they have got PvE servers as well. Although I think they've actually got rid of them now, since there is only PvP zones. I'm not quoting me on that, so I'll give you more details when the full releases come in and give you all the info and downloads. So let me know if you want to see me try this game again a bit more consistently. Like I said, I've tried it a bunch of times in live streams. I did a Let's Play for 4 or 5 videos with my good friend Frisonis. And just an FYI, this gameplay is quite old. They have had a good 2 or 3 updates since then, so I'm sure a lot of the interfaces and everything else has changed. It has got servers you come to expect, but I'm definitely down for maybe giving this another try, because I did think it was interesting, the idea of Rust in space. So if Ark Survival Evolved Genesis has turned you off PvP a little bit because of the lack of content for that game, maybe DayZ is massively still buggy on console, then maybe this could be a decent little game. One thing that held it back also when it released, it was hell of expensive. They were charging like £21, 23 quid for it. And considering so many other games were out, it was a huge mistake having it that expensive. They ended up reducing it down to like 12 or 15 quid by now. And I really hope they don't go too mad and up the price too much on console. Yes, it will be a full-fledged game, and I'm hoping it's got more content, but it definitely needs to be competitive. A good example of this is The Forest. That came out on PS4 in November 2018, and you know what? It was number 7 on the downloads in Europe in 2019. Beating games like DayZ, Ark. It was the most downloaded game out of all the survival games available. In Europe anyway. I think that's still a good indication of what you can do, because The Forest was pretty cheap for what it was. Great game, great reviews, selling millions of copies on Steam, and obviously it sold a fair amount on the PlayStation 4 too. So if you're watching this, devs, make your game competitive. Sell it low, but sell absolute loads of it and then recoup your money, maybe skin packs, but get people coming to try your game. That was a big problem with Memories of Mars. There just was too much competition and not enough features to keep people seeing what would come next. They did update the game throughout early access with a bunch of seasons. Each season would basically add new content in updates, but they would wipe the servers because of the seasons and content coming in. Eventually this did piss off the loyal small fan base that were playing this game. I'm talking less than hundreds. And eventually they did decide they weren't going to. With the release of it though coming to 1.0, they are going to do one final wipe. They've got no plans to make it a regular thing unless something really goes drastically wrong, and that's what's going to be happening on PC. So 1.0 coming out on March the 5th for Steam, and coming to console like a week later, Xbox and PlayStation on March the 12th. So Memories of Mars, good points. It's not going to suck your life away. You're not going to get raided offline. There are PvP zones. There's lots and lots of mechanical creatures in the game that you'll be fighting when maybe players aren't around. Bad points. It is pretty much the same thing. If it's only PvP zones, the rest of the game might get a bit stale and a bit boring. I think they should capitalise on the lack of these types of games on console. People are going absolutely out their mind in anticipation for Rust coming, and I think the devs should at least experiment with some server types that still have raiding on at all times, or at least that combat like I mentioned earlier. I don't think you can even shoot at other players unless you're in the PvP zones. And I guess it could be deemed maybe just a quick push to make a quick buck or try and recoup some losses, whacking it on console when it's not really made a splash. I will be there, I'll do my best to get some copies, and I'm going to reach out and see if I can get some early access possibly too. So there we go guys, some competition, much needed competition for console. I'm not saying buy it outright, I'm just saying it definitely offers something a bit different, and it definitely might be something big if enough players get behind it. But it could also be bereft of ideas, it could be low on content, I'm not too sure. So I really want to make sure I give it a full review when it comes out. I am JPG, I'll give you the survival news you need to know. Make sure you're subscribed and locked on. And for all survival game news and info, make sure you've got the notification bell dinged. Until next time, Ratbags, I'll see you later.